from calling you Lord. I'm too young to just hang around, too proud to be your fool. You said no thank you when I tried to get you.
It's a little late on the draw on that one. I forgot to add myself to the
suspense.
I know. Leave people hanging for a second. What's going on, fishing friends? We are excited tonight at the Fishing Channel. We have a lot going on. First thing is Lady C and I will be at the Tangier Classic this weekend down in Crisfield, Maryland. We will have a table there. We might do a little bit of fishing, but we're not competing. So we're going to have a table there both Friday and Saturday night, right?
Yes.
Both Friday and Saturday night. So stop by, come say hello to us. Lady C will sign autographs. I don't autograph anything. It's actually, if I sign it, it gets negative value. So that's one thing. If another thing you may notice, the Redfish shirts are in. We have them. It's no longer like a future fantasy. Let me show you guys some pictures of those. The lovely Lady C amongst the reeds in her Redfish shirt. It's titled The Red Zone. There's one more picture of me. Where'd it go? It was a good one too. It's a rare good looking photo of me. So those shirts are in. If you'd like to order them, I don't know if my lovely moderators put it in yet, but they can be ordered at www.thefishingchannel.net. And that's where you can get them. That whole page is pretty much set up for Fishing Channel merchandise. So as soon as you get to that landing page, you'll see them right there. Got NCPIERMAN, Taramelli tonight. Let me bring him in real quick. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm good, doing good. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you. All right, so your job tonight, NCPIERMAN, is to choose the question of the night. So whenever a good question comes in, make sure you write that thing down so we can know who won. But the winner up here in Maryland, and I would also imagine somewhat far south down into the northern part of North Carolina, rockfish or striped bass season is about to get real hot. And we have 2 packs of BKDs, a 3/4 ounce and a 1/2 ounce. And early on, these are really, really, really good weights to be using along with a BKD or any sort of soft plastic. So this is the prize for the night for the best question of the night. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Just got out of the deer stand.
That's what I saw. You had the picture you sent me, you had a nice clear path for taking a good shot. You had that well planned.
Yeah, I shot one there last week, about 8 yards in front of me.
Yeah, with a crossbow or a compound bow,
Crossbow.
there is no 40, 50, 60 yard shot. I mean, your shots are usually, when I used to bow hunt, I was always told try to get a shot of 20 yards or less.
Yep, that's right. I stick to that. 20 yards or less. I can shoot further than that, but I prefer not to. I like it close and personal.
Yeah. You want to, that's, you're going to be able to get a nice clean shot that way. How's the fishing down there?
Fishing's starting to kick off pretty good. Reds are fired up. They're chasing shrimp all over the place. Trout are starting to move in. I've seen reports of people catching a lot of trout here lately, and some really decent sized fish too. It's almost that time now to start putting back a little bit of hunting time and start taking a little bit more fishing time again.
Yeah, where you are, it's kind of like it starts to become sort of a seesaw, right? Like
Very much so, yeah.
the hunting's good, but then you got to go back to fishing, then you got to hunt and then fish. That's not a bad problem to have, sir.
No, well, see, I do a lot of veteran hunts. So right now I got one guy out in the woods, and then tomorrow he's going back out in the morning, and then I've got vets coming up to hunt Friday and Saturday for doves, which I'm loaded with doves up here too. So it's a good thing.
It's a good problem to have. So you mentioned trout are moving in. What's going to be the main tactic for targeting those trout right now?
Anytime you're going to target trout, first thing is you want to go slow. If you're using top waters, you want to just pop it a little bit, let it sit, let it drift. Same way with a lure. My main lures I use are Miradyne 17s and XR8 Ghost X Wraps. I toss them, I'll bring them under the water, and I'll let them drift in the current, 5-10 yards before I ever touch them again. And a lot of times these fish will follow right behind it, and they'll just sit there looking at it, debating on whether they want to take it or not.
Yep.
Next thing you know, just before you get ready to twitch, all of a sudden you got a fish on.
Yeah. The lure he's referring to, guys, if you're not familiar with it, if you search the internet or anything, there's a whole class of them. And in general, they're called suspended twitch baits.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. There's Miradyne makes one. Rapala makes one. Miradyne's probably the most well-known, don't you think?
Yes, Mirror is probably a better known one.
Right.
I have a hard time choosing between them. If I'm searching, I use my X-Wrap a lot more than I use my Miradyne. Once I find the fish or I get bumped on the Miradyne or the X-Wrap, then I'm going to switch up and I'm going to go to my RT. It's a color choice I've used for years, and it's a color choice I've caught fish on every year, year after year after year. So,
yeah,
like they say, why change something that works?
Sure. Well, you're the show tonight, but I do want to tell a quick story about working your baits slow for trout. The first year I went down there, actually, you and I were trying to hook up, and we just couldn't make it happen. But I fished the Neuse River, and I was doing a lot of recording of my fishing at the time. So I had cameras running the whole time, and when I went back to edit, I noticed every time. So I throw it out, twitch, pause, twitch, pause, right? But I noticed when I learned something when I watched this video. Every time I had an extended pause, or I got distracted by something, right? You see my head look over this way, and then I look back, I get a strike. And I didn't notice it at all during fishing, but I was fishing too fast. And when I get distracted, I'd get hit because I was fishing too fast. So you're dead on the money on that one, Taramelli.
I mean, I've seen people to go out and they'll work the lure pretty quick, and then all of a sudden they stop and turn their head, like you said, or look down at their kayak to change something out, or in their boat to get something else, and all of a sudden they've got a fish on. The trout are they're an aggressive fish, but they're very careful too. They'll follow that lure for 20, 30 yards before they even hit it. And it's at the least expected time. Like you said, when you go to do something, all of a sudden they're smashing it. A lot of my bigger fish come on that longer pause, especially with a top water. Your Spook Juniors work really well on top. I use mirror lures mainly. My favorite go-to for a mirror lure is an MR10 top prop, and it's sounds like a man flipping on the surface.
Yeah.
And if you work that lure right, you will catch either reds or trout on it. Trout love that thing. Overall, our area here is going to get more and more hot. The waters are going to cool down more and more every day. I mean, we're looking at right now, tomorrow morning it's supposed to be 40 degrees here.
No way. 40 degrees. The air temperature is supposed to be 40?
Saturday. I'm sorry, not tomorrow. Saturday.
Wow.
Air temperature is supposed to get at night to 40 degrees.
Well, that'll probably shut the bite down for a second, won't it?
Nope.
It'll heat it up.
Yep.
Okay.
You're going to get more fish moving in. The bait's going to start moving slower because the water's getting colder. So you may not see menhaden, up on the surface anymore much longer from now, but there's always going to be menhaden in that water. Even through January and February, I'm still catching finger mullet and menhaden in the creek. It's there, you just don't see it as well as you do in the summertime with the warmer water.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest thing now is you're going to have to figure out what tides that those fish are chewing on. Usually it's the end of the outgoing to the beginning of the incoming, and you get about an hour into the incoming, and then it'll shut down.
So you're telling me during the hottest part of the summer, it's really only on the incoming because that's when it brings in the cool water from the ocean.
Right.
Do you
Exactly.
see that start to switch as the
Yeah.
air temperature goes down? Do you almost
Water
want to
temp-
fish the outgoing?
And usually, this is September, October, November, I normally start fishing the outgoing tides only because that's pulling a little bit warmer water out from the top end of the creeks and pulling it down through along with some bait. Anywhere you can find bait in those colder months, you're going to find fish. Biggest thing in our area is you want to find a deeper hole. You want to fish sandier flats where it drops off into a deeper hole, where these trout will go up into the sand flat areas in the daytime and warm up with the sun because it's a much shallower water.
Right.
I was always told look for the darkest bottom, and that's where you're going to find your trout at because the dark bottom holds heat.
That's going to be deeper, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but for the time being, we still have some warm air. You're saying it's still going to be that incoming tide until
Right
you
now,
said
yeah.
October, November.
Yeah.
Are you seeing any black drum showing up yet?
Yeah, black drummer here. They've been here throughout the summer, but they'll get more proficient now that the waters are starting to cool down. We've got a lot more shrimp in the water, bigger shrimp at that. So our black drummers starting to pull inside more than they are up on the beaches. You can catch them on the beach, but don't ever overlook the creek areas that you're fishing because they are in that waterway where the shrimp are.
Got it. Oh, I don't think we've ever gone this far into a show. We're 13 minutes in, and we really haven't focused on redfish much at all. We talked about trout and we talked about black drum. I mean, I'm almost afraid to bring up flounder because you hate them so much. But let's talk about redfish for a second. I think the last time we spoke, or probably last month when you were talking with Lady C, it was so hot that the redfish really were only eating bait.
Right. You wanted to fish for redfish last month and as part of this month. You wanted to fish real early or real late in the evening when it's starting to cool down a little bit to actually get the drum to get real aggressive. Afternoon bite was more on live baits and cut baits than anything else. Now it's switching up. Now you're going to start getting our drum in our area here. They're going to start schooling up. And they're going to be following the baits around the big flats and stuff. So they'll hit either live bait, top waters, paddle tails, whatever you're throwing. If you can find them fish, they are going to eat. They're going to start grubbing up for the wintertime. They're going to put on weight.
And as the water cools, that window for catching them will broaden.
Yes.
You have a longer period of time during the day where you can catch them. Yeah.
Yep. That hole that I had you guys see that time, I could sit there for a full 6.5 hours and do nothing but catch reds.
Wow. When's that start? This month or a little later?
End of November into December, January and February. I forget when I had you up there, but I think it was February, March area.
That would have been March.
Yep, I was gonna say.
Yeah, March. That was March.
Yep. And they were still hitting good then.
Yeah.
And we caught quite a few out of that spot. But back up a month more, those areas that I took you to are on fire with fish. I mean, you can't go into them and not catch. And you saw how we fished. We used light jig heads, real slow retrieve on them. If you were reeling anything in, they would take it. It's more or less, even with a soft plastic, you throw it out, let it sink all the way to the bottom. Bounce it once or twice, let it sit. That pause is what gets your fish.
Is that going to be a similar approach to what we're going into now at,
Yeah.
with October? Is that, you let your soft plastic sink all the way to the bottom and kind of work it slowly across the bottom?
Exactly. Especially now, you find the schools, there's usually anywhere from 50 to 200, 300 reds in a school.
Yeah.
And they're spooky because the water is going to start getting clearer and clearer now. They're not leader shy, but they are very prone to take off when something hits that water. So if you run into a school, you want to throw, to the right or to the left of the school, whatever way they're traveling, you want to throw it a little decent ways from it. Let it go all the way to the bottom, then bounce it once or twice, or you just let it sit on the bottom and twitch it. They'll find that bait and they will take it. Whether it's a soft plastic or a soft body lure, even the XRA Ghost X wraps, any kind of those X wraps, anything that suspends under the water.
Well, let's go through some of these fish right now and talk about the size that are showing up right now. You started with trout and said the quality of these fish is pretty good. A big trout means a lot different things in different regions. What's that high quality trout looking like in the Carolina coastal region?
Most of the fish we're getting on this end right now are anywhere from, like, say, average of slot size, which is 15, up to 21, 22 inches.
Okay.
A few in between that are 23s, 24s. Matter of fact, there's been some that have been caught that have been in the 6 and 7 pound range already. So I think this year is going to be really, really good for trout. And we've had very little rain down on our end. These trout will be higher up in your freshwater creeks. Now, with the water salinity being more salt up high than it is freshwater. River in Jacksonville, you could probably go 12 miles upstream and still catch trout.
Yeah, you guys have the trout really turn your bite into like a 365 day fishery, right? Because you can catch trout in your area in January, February, can't you?
Yep. I catch in January, February, March, almost into April. Like towards the end of March, April, they start to dissipate a little bit, and it all depends on where you're fishing at. You go higher in the creek, they get a lot of pressure up on that end, where they'll kind of go down more back towards the ocean, to your inlet areas and stuff like that, and the bigger flats and the little side creeks going through the marshes.
And moving on to some of the other fish we were talking about. What when these redfish start schooling up, what size of redfish are you seeing in those schools in the months of September and October?
Months of September and October, they're going to vary. They're not like a summertime school. They like to stay pretty much on a size orientation. When the water starts getting colder and the bait starts getting less and less, you're going to see a mixture of sizes of those reds. You'll find overslots mixed in with slot fish. You'll find underslots mixed in with the slot fish and the overslot. October, November, you see a lot of that because they're still schooling up, and they'll pretty much stay like that throughout the rest of the year. Even in towards, say January, February, March, you're going to see a mixture. It's not so much like your summertime schools where they say, if you catch one at 21 inches, you may pick one up or more that are 23 to 25 inches with that once an occasional overslot, it might be 27 and a half up to 33, 34 inches.
Wow.
Right now they're catching a lot of, if you're catching small pups under the slot, you're pretty much going to continue to catch underslot. Move around and say another 50 to 100 yards one way or the other, you might find them slot fish that'll be anywhere from 18 all the way up to 25, 27 inches. with an occasional mixed in overslot.
And lastly, the black drum, the black drum that you're seeing caught, what size are those right now?
A lot of them I'm seeing caught are making slot, and I've seen them as high as like 21 inches so far.
And what's your slot in North Carolina?
15, and you can only keep, I believe it's 5 with 1 over 25 inches.
Okay.
You can't keep anything above 25 but 1.
Once the black drum gets to be 25 inches, that starts to get to be a pretty heavy fish.
Yeah, and the bigger they get, the wormier they get.
Yeah. You don't want to eat those big ones, right?
No, I prefer to keep and eat the smaller the black drum. And I never really ate black drum up until about 2 years ago, and I actually liked it. So every now and then I'll keep one if I catch one.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been catching them up to 18 inches.
When we caught those with you, we caught some that were just a tad bit over slot, and those those things were delicious. They're so good. All we did was eat fish for the rest of the 3 days we were there. We had
Nothing wrong with that.
2 reds and two black drum, and that's all we ate.
Yep.
Getting in touch with you, booking a trip. First of all, before we even get into that, let me tell everyone watching, if you want a really magical experience fishing these, creeks and rivers, kind of back in the middle of nowhere. First of all, don't bring your boat like I did. Bring a kayak. But don't wait. Hire NCPIERMAN, to take you fishing. He knows that water like the back of his hand, and like you said, these fish school up. And I'll tell you one thing about his region is you kind of have to know it. And if you know it, you're going to do really well. If you don't know it, it's not one of these areas where you can just drop a kayak in and start catching fish. So do yourself a favor and hook up with NCPIERMAN. How do people do that if someone wants to reach you and connect with you to book a trip?
They can get a hold of me on Facebook, NCPIERMAN Taramelli, or contact me through my cell phone number, which is 910-581-4287. If I don't answer the phone, leave me a message, because if you don't, it goes to the spam folder, and I don't bother doing it anymore.
Well, guys, there's your number right there, 910-581-4287. I can't, Lady C and I have fished with Tim before, and we can't recommend the experience more. I mean, we tore it up for a good 5 or 6 hours, and we somehow managed to not tear up my boat.
I was going to say we tore up the boat, but we got you up there. We got you in the fish.
But before we leave, and I may have told this story before, but like I was, I talked to you a lot before, but I couldn't believe how much you wanted to get us on those fish. I mean, you got out of your kayak and pulled us over
cold water
numerous times. And I was like, man, this guy is going above and beyond, and he will go above and beyond to put you on those fish. So I don't know if you can expect him to pull you up over oyster beds like you did us, but man, we really appreciated the effort you put into putting us on those fish, and we had a great time, and I'm sure you guys will too. But we have another fishing report coming up in about 6 minutes. Tim, you want to close us out with any sage advice, sage wisdom?
Biggest thing is be patient when you go out looking for fish. Work your lures slow. Take your time. Proceed as you're looking, like you're searching, almost like you would be if you were deer hunting. You go slow. You take your time. You look at everything.
Dissect the water, right?
Exactly. Don't overlook anything. Any little point, any little cut back into a bank will hold fish. As long as you stay far enough away from it, you're good, and you can just keep on working it. I mean, I stick pin in a lot, and I'll work an area until I figure out whether there's fish are there or not. If there's not, then I'll move again. But I'm not going to just run into an area and expect to catch fish, because I just spooked them going in real fast. You know, I'm on a kayak. Kayak is a lot stealthier, but you're still going to spook fish. They know you're there before you even get there.
Well, guys, the sage, advice he just shared is just one little grain of sand of what he can teach you. When you fish with him, the entire time out there, he's going to be teaching you how to catch reds, how to work structure, how to present a bait properly. So don't hesitate. Reach out to him today to book that adventure. We got another report coming to you in 4 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for watching. NCPIERMAN, thank you so much for taking the time out. And we will see you all in a few minutes or next month with NCPIERMAN.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Young, just hang around. Too proud to be your fool.